All right, I am in Phoenix, where Kevin Durant was officially introduced as the newest member of the Phoenix Suns on Thursday. I spent some time this morning meeting for about 30 minutes with Matt Ishbia, who's the new owner of the Phoenix Suns. We had a one-on-one conversation this morning, and then in the afternoon, I was at the Durant introductory press conference, which was more of a celebration of Kevin Durant, if we're being honest. It was open to the public, and it was very much a chance for the Suns to introduce Kevin Durant to the Phoenix crowd as much as it was to allow the media to speak to them. But there was some revealing moments for Kevin Durant. I want to start, though, with my conversation with Matt Ishbia, who I think is going to be a tremendous owner in the NBA. He has undeniable passion for this league. He's a former college basketball player, as we know, at Michigan State, and he has been on the hunt for an NBA team for some time, not just looking to throw his money at a prospective NBA situation, but also taking the time over the last couple of years to really engage with other NBA owners, to engage with Adam Silver, to try to develop the connections you need to have to be a successful NBA owner. And in meeting with him, his energy is high. His passion is palpable. Like, you can feel his desire to win. And there's no doubt that he was instrumental in the ability of the Suns to acquire Kevin Durant. Number one, he signed off on writing the check. In acquiring Kevin Durant, the Suns are taking on something in the neighborhood of $40 million more in luxury tax penalties. That's a bill that Robert Sarver, the previous owner, likely never would have footed, but it was one that Matt Ishbia told me he didn't blink at for a second. He said as soon as that came up in the meetings, he said, not a problem. Don't let that be an issue. I will pay the money. So he took that off the table right away. And look, he was influential in those closed-door meetings over the last couple of weeks in, I don't know if selling is the right word, but being involved with the decision to include Mikal Bridges in the trade for Kevin Durant. So the reason Kevin Durant is in Phoenix right now has a lot to do with the fact that Matt Ishbia is here. And he's got a lot of good ideas for how to improve the Suns culture, what Phoenix will look like, in the new Durant era, and how they'll all fit together. And I think he's going to be really good for the Suns, for the NBA, and for that Phoenix community. Now, Durant. Again, this press conference that Durant was a part of was more about a celebration of Durant. A lot of the questions were from local media, who obviously had local-centric questions, who wanted to talk about Durant's viewpoint of the Suns from afar, how he'd fit in with Devin Booker and Chris Paul, what he thinks of Monty Williams and James Jones, and those are kind of fun, easy questions. It got a little bit interesting towards the end when some other reporters, including myself, tried to get at what's gone on over the last couple of weeks in Brooklyn. Nick Friedel, my friend over at ESPN, he got booed when he asked Durant to sum up his experience in Brooklyn and why it didn't work out with the Nets. And look, when I asked Durant about how he felt about not finishing the job in Brooklyn, he was pretty insightful with his answer. He talked about being disappointed that this Nets team, the one that was 18-2 in the 20 games prior to his injury, how they were not able to get the opportunity to see what that team could do. That team, before Durant's injury, was climbing the standings. They were starting to make Boston nervous. They were playing better defense. There were a lot of things going right with that team. It kind of went off the rails when Durant went out. Then the Kyrie trade request happened, and here we are to this day. But it was pretty clear talking to Durant that he was disappointed in not being able to see the Nets thing through, at least this year. It was also pretty clear that he was blindsided by Kyrie's decision to ask for a trade, the ultimate decision to trade him. I mean, one thing he said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, was, Kyrie was so important to what we do, and when he was traded, that just, it took a lot of wind out of the sails for that team in Brooklyn, and it made Durant start to really think about what his future, immediate future, was going to look like. So there was obvious disappointment, and I keep using that word, with Kevin Durant when it comes down to how it all played out with the Nets and with Kyrie Irving. Looking to the future, There's lots of reason to believe that the Suns can be a high-level playoff team this year. I mean, Durant is Durant. When he's healthy, he's a 30-point-per-game scorer. He's shooting in the mid to high 30s from three-point range. His field goal percentage is up above 60%. He is still elite. Devin Booker, when he's healthy, and he is now, is elite. Chris Paul, bit of a slower year. Not as strong a year for Chris Paul, but he's still Chris Paul, and there's no point guard I would want to be able to blend the talents of Booker, Durant, DeAndre Ayton together than Chris Paul. It is a lot to ask, though, in my opinion, for this team to succeed at a championship level this year. You just don't see it. You don't see teams kind of put together on the fly succeeding right away. Even teams that get put together in an offseason, new teams, super teams, a lot of times they don't win championships in that first year. A lot of times they don't win championships at all. I mean, you go back, a decade and a half ago, you look at the Lakers with Dwight Howard, Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, that didn't work. You look at the Nets when they got Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, that didn't work. You look at these most recent Nets, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, that didn't work. So you can't just say adding Kevin Durant to this team makes the Suns the favorite in the West. You got to see them play, and you got to see what this chemistry looks like. And Phoenix, as they finish this year, is going to have at least one buyout signee as part of its rotation. Terrence Ross was announced this week. He's going to be in the mix in Phoenix. And that's just a lot of moving parts. It's a lot to ask a team to get it together in 2 months and rise to a championship level. And look, my concern with this deal with the Suns is that if it doesn't work this year and it doesn't work next year, that window might be closed, because this is not a team with a 4, 5, 6-year window. You've got Durant, who's 34. Chris Paul will be 38 in May. Devin Booker still in his prime. DeAndre Ayton not even in his prime. But those two key guys are heading towards or are in the twilight of their career. And I think asking them to play at a championship level for more than 2 more seasons is asking a lot. And you have to be really optimistic to believe that this team could actually do it. So if they can't win a championship, the future is dicey, to say the least. I mean, they traded away all their draft picks. They traded away a terrific young player in Mikal Bridges, who had 45 points in Brooklyn's win over Miami on Wednesday. Is one of the best defensive players in the entire league. And if you're starting to get early on some vibes like it's an Oklahoma City, LA Clippers deal from a few years ago, where the Clippers, they went all in to get Paul George. They traded a bunch of draft picks and a great young player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has become an all-star, maybe an all-NBA level player this year. You're not alone with those vibes. I'm starting to get those vibes already off this deal. That's not to say the Suns shouldn't have done it. When you have a chance to acquire a generational talent like Kevin Durant, you do it. When you have a chance to make yourself a title contender for at least a couple of years, you do it. They made the right decision in my mind. But to me, it has just as much or more risk of backfiring and blowing up and turning the Suns into what the Nets are, or worse, in the next couple of years than it does succeeding. At very least, it's 50-50, and it might even be more likely that it does blow up. Again, you make the deal over and over again. Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant. Great player, good guy, someone you want as part of your team. But there's a big risk here with Phoenix. So today was a day of celebration. It was mobbed in the building, 1,000+ fans crammed in for the press conference, middle of the afternoon on a Thursday. The line outside was long just to get in. There are 2 big murals outside with Kevin Durant's face and Chris Paul's face and DeAndre Ayton's face and Devin Booker's face on them. This is a great time to be a fan of the Phoenix Suns. But if you're expecting this team to cruise through the Western Conference, don't. If you're expecting this team to win a championship in year 1, that's a lot to ask. This is a high-risk, high-reward deal for Phoenix, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out.